Now, what does the Green Energy Council do well? How is it distinguished from other environmental organizations? I mean, does it have really good contacts in both countries, or is it mostly an American Silicon Valley effort, which maybe has a few Chinese?
Well, I would like to say yes across all those, but I think the distinction that the Council has is that it provides a catalyst for ideas and projects that can be pursued across boundaries. And yes, we do touch the behemoth that we know as China in many ways, to include the government side, industry, and companies.
Now, China is very different from the U.S. because in China, the government can issue a decree and people have to follow it. In the United States, you have political opposition. You can't just issue a decree. So does this collaboration take that into account, the difference in how things get done in the two countries?
It's not that different, really. A corporation is a dictatorship similar to the Chinese system, and it's hard to get the workers to cooperate on everything. And I used to be in the Air Force, and that was one where it's supposed to be top-down, and you find out that people don't just follow orders.
And even in a single-party system like China, there are different elements and factions, and so they do have to achieve a consensus, similar to what we do on Capitol Hill. But that being said, I think they have a much more direct connection from their central government down to the provinces and the major municipalities.
Now, does the organization have a strong scientific basis? Are you coming forth with ideas that maybe would not be readily available to the leaders if it weren't for your efforts?
Absolutely. The fact that we're here in the Silicon Valley is part of the reason for that. I mean, we're focused on science, and we integrate science with social science and with nonprofit work and with political science.
And what are your upcoming plans? I know you have conferences. You have them in the United States. You have them in China. What do you hope to accomplish when you have these conferences?
Well, the Council's a young organization. We're only about 2 years old, and we're ratcheting up the number of activities that we engage in a year. For instance, we just had our annual conference in Palo Alto this past week, and already we're making plans to return back to China, to Shanghai, before the 2010 Expo. So the Council will be there with other political and business people.
Now, I know that you had an event in Washington, D.C. recently, not really a conference, but members of the group met with senators and congressmen. In fact, California Congressman Mike Honda, who is an honorary chairman of your group, gave a videotaped presentation in which he introduced you to the senators and representatives. And we just happen to have a videotape of Mike Honda's introduction. So let's go ahead and roll that tape.
I am hosting the U.S.-China Green Energy Council in Washington to draw attention to the unparalleled potential for clean energy partnerships. As economic powerhouses, the resultant U.S.-China carbon footprint calls for joint leadership capable of moving forward the global climate commitment while making green technology affordable and accessible for the most economically underdeveloped nations. Our response to climate change must articulate a way forward for the least of us, who will feel the most in terms of adverse impacts of climate change. By factoring the poor in our response, we lower the environmental and health risks from global warming and seize the opportunity to democratize energy. By that I mean one person, one vote becomes one person, one energy supplier, wherein energy supply is not controlled by a few utilities, but by every household. Consider our centralized energy system. Americans have limited options when it comes to energy supply, suffering market forces and fluctuating prices. In response to my state's electricity crisis, California residents are now selling their own renewable energy. Homes are topped with solar panels, which generate power and offset electric bills. This is putting power into the hands of the people. If America leads lowering the price for household-sized technologies, others will follow. Companies designing home-appropriate panels, turbines, or other devices can amass majority market share, then go global. We must motivate innovators to produce portable, affordable power, enabling citizens of the most autocratic countries to be free from fetters and equipping them with ways to harness the sun's, wind's, and earth's power cheaply. The reward for the developed world is enhanced security. Localizing your supply makes systems-wide sabotaging difficult. A country powered locally by individual households harnessing the sun, the wind, or other renewable resource is a country more secure with less risk and less fear. It is time to give energy to the people. This is what democracy looks like, power in the hands or households of the people.
Mike Honda made an interesting point there that he would like to see every home be able to manufacture all the energy it needs just from its environment without having to be connected to some external power source at all. Do you think we're anywhere near being able to do that?
Absolutely. In fact, today we can build homes that have a zero energy footprint and a zero pollution footprint. That's all technologically possible. It's just getting the political will together to do it. And in fact, California, AB 32, we have a requirement that by 2020, all new homes will have a zero energy footprint. And by 2030, all new businesses and large buildings will have a zero energy footprint. So it's not just generating energy for the grid or for others to use or for ourselves, but it's about saving energy, not wasting it.
You know, different sectors of the economy emit different quantities of pollutants. In fact, I think we have a slide which demonstrates that. There it is. So according to that slide, well, what's that telling us? It looks like buildings contribute the most. If you can see the time scale at the bottom, that goes from about 1950 to 2000. So that's a 50-year time scale. And the carbon emissions are along the left side. Transportation follows close behind. So it seems like buildings are the biggest source. So what might we be able to do about that?
That's right. And in fact, I mean, if we cut building emissions and building energy use, then we've already made a huge dent.
Now there's something called green buildings.
Yes, right.
So what is a green building? What differentiates a green building from a non-green building? In fact, we have a slide there showing how much we could potentially save on a green building.
Well, when you talk about a green building, in that slide, it says some things about that. If you do a retrofit of a current building, you can reduce the energy that it needs and the pollution that it creates by up to, it says, like 50%. If you build the house or a building with a design so that all the parts work together, it could be a zero energy building.
Now, is this technology mature today so that new houses built today would probably have this technology?
Some do. In fact, Ohlone College in Newark, California is a zero energy building, the whole campus.
And I think Silicon Valley is sort of a leader in that field too. And I think a lot of the green aspects involves a lot of electronic sensing. So you turn on the lights automatically when the person walks into the room, and when there's no motion, then it turns off automatically. As soon as the person takes his hands away from the faucet, the water turns off. So we're talking about things like that, basically.
Right, absolutely. So technology is very important. And so as we improve the technology, we can be more efficient and less polluting.